For you, it might be obvious who your family is, but for some, it's just not that simple. Adoption, sometimes across international borders and into multiracial households, can raise profound questions about belonging and home. Judith Craig Morency knows this well. She's a social worker who specializes in fostering and adoption. She's also featured in a documentary that explores her own story. It's called Adoptee, and it's the work of filmmaker Sonia Godding Togobo. She's founder of A Black Woman's Gaze, a salon series based in Toronto. And we're pleased to welcome both of you to our studio tonight. Hi.
Hi.
How are you both?
Fantastic.
It's nice to have you here. So Sonia, how did you and Judith meet?
We met in 2006 via a mutual friend. Both of us were living in England, London, England at the time. And a friend of ours in Toronto said, you know what, you should meet each other. You guys would really get on. And we did. We met at an event, and there was an instant familiarity that we had, and we became friends.
So you get to a point where you hear her story and you decide to do a documentary on it. How did you get to that point? Why a documentary?
I guess we were just sort of getting to know each other, and we're talking about our lives back in Canada and, you know, the friends we had in common and things we'd done. And as I was explaining my story to Sonia, she was like, that would make a great documentary. We should film you going back to Haiti. And I was sort of taken aback. I thought, oh, I don't know about that. That's going to be quite intense. But I think after just getting to know each other better and building a friendship, I felt like if I was going to do this with anybody, I would want to do it with somebody I was familiar with, I was comfortable with, and who truly was a friend. I've just felt safer doing it that way. So we just sort of set the wheels in motion and decided we're going to go down to Haiti together and film the process.
And as a filmmaker, Sonia, I mean, you hear stories, a lot of stories, but what was it about Judith's story? Like, what were you hoping for with this documentary?
That's a great question. I mean, when I spoke to Judith about her story, she was so convicted, and she was so so passionate about adoption and about her story. And at the time, what was going on in the zeitgeist, you had a lot of celebrities who were adopting transracially, right? So you had Madonna adopting, you had Sandra Bullock adopting. So the idea of transracial adoption was was in the zeitgeist, and it was something that I was thinking a lot about. And hearing Judith's story, it just really brought it home on a very personal, immediate level, you know, the effects of transracial adoption and what that looks like. I hadn't really met anybody like this, and hearing Judith's story, I was really compelled by it. I was really proud of her, and I was really, you know, I wanted to be a part of her telling her story.
We're going to talk more about transracial adoption in depth, but first, let's take a look at the documentary. This is a little bit of Adoptee right here on TVO.
I guess the most painful question I sometimes ask myself is, was she leaving me to die? Or was she leaving me in hopes that someone would be there to try and find me?
I was found in a ditch, like in the ground in Haiti, and some people, we don't know who exactly, found me. I was adopted by a white minister and his wife. Although it was a very loving family I was in, I've always felt there was part of me missing.
It's been a few years now since you've done the documentary. Looking back, do you think that you found what was missing?
That's such a good question. Yes and no, I would say. Being there in Haiti, I went to search for my family. That was sort of my #1 priority. I was very determined. I really wanted to find them. People were very much, you're not going to find them. It's impossible. You don't have the information that you need to find. But I was determined. But I also was realistic. And I think being a social worker, I prepared myself appropriately. And I knew I could go down and find nothing. I could find some bad news. I could, you know, I was prepared in that sense. So for me, it was also about going down and finding Haiti, you know. That was very important for me as well. I'd never been. I didn't have much information about Haiti. I hadn't had much connection to it. I didn't know very many Haitian people at all. So for me, it was also about going and connecting to the country and just discovering and exploring that.
And one thing that you did once you got to Haiti was that you did a media blitz, and you went, you did different radio shows, and all of a sudden, all of these people come forward saying that they're related to you or they're your mother. What was that response like? Did you expect that?
It was overwhelming. I remember the first time we did the first radio interview, so nervous, and I just thought, are people gonna respond to this? You know, are people gonna think I'm crazy? Why have I come back here? But it was such an amazing response. I remember we gave out the phone number on radio station, and when the phone started ringing while we were still doing the interview, it totally took me by surprise. I sort of literally jumped. I was like, oh my goodness, people are responding that quickly. And the response we had was incredible. People just sort of came out of everywhere. People came to just call and offer support, say you're gonna find your family, we're praying for you, we're hoping for you, all of the well-wishers were there. And then there were a lot of people who came forward and said, I think you might be my child. I'm trying to reconnect with my lost daughter. So it was very overwhelming, and it was very powerful, I guess is the word I would use.
Well, there's a moment in the documentary where there's a woman, she's convinced that you're her child. She actually says, my child, in reference to you. And she's telling this heartbreaking story of how she left her own child. What was it like to be in an environment where it seemed like a lot of people were looking for lost relatives? Sonia?
Yeah, it was emotional, right? Because we realized at that moment that it wasn't just Judith who went through this. There was a lot of women in Haiti who had to give up their children, and there was almost like a system or an industry in adoption in Haiti, right? There was this sort of like backstory to Judith's story that we weren't aware of, and so it was emotional hearing and seeing the outcry from these women, and it was also very telling to the state of what was going on in Haiti. You know, it was quite telling in terms of the poverty that a lot of women were facing.
And at one point, I guess the universe planned it. You stay at a guest house, and this guest house is hosting potential parents who are in Haiti to adopt children. As a filmmaker, that must have been what for you?
It was gold. I mean, I'd like to say that we prepped that and we prepared that. We did not. We did not know that was going to happen. But when I was there, I thought, oh my goodness, these children are literally representations of Judith in the past, right? Like this is what Judith would have went through when she was younger. And I felt compelled to show that because I felt like Judith was sort of further down the line, perhaps, in these children's history or what would be their history. You know, I felt like Judith would really be a great example, and it was a good opportunity for you to see that, and it was a great opportunity for her to talk to these folks and just sort of get insight from these prospective parents, you know? And I had to show that relationship, and I was quite interested in seeing your reaction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Judith's reaction was interesting because as I'm watching, it seems like a really happy moment because you're in a place where, you know, all these babies need parents, and then you have all these parents who need babies. But then you go off on a side and you say that it looks strange.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
It was really surreal. I didn't know how I would feel, and I wasn't aware that I would feel that way. It just sort of hit me. I think for me it was, I'd never been in an environment where I didn't grow up with other transracial adoptees. So it was myself and my brother who were adopted from Haiti, and then my parents had 3 biological children. So we grew up in our mixed family, and other people used to always look at our family with quizzical looks and ignorant questions. But I hadn't seen it for myself in the same way. You know, as I got older, I started to see more of it. But it was just sort of overwhelming to see a sea of white parents with the sea of black children. And I think for me it was partially heartbreaking in a sense that I knew what these children were losing in that way. And just some of the comments I heard from some of the parents, some of the colorblind philosophy and the sort of wiping away of culture is what I would say I experienced. And that saddened me, and I was scared for the children because I know the journey I'd been on for the last, you know, at that point, 20+ years, 27 years. So I think that was very heartbreaking, just thinking the journey that these children would go on, and if their parents weren't properly equipped to manage them throughout that journey and that process, it can be very painful, it can be very difficult, and heartbreaking.
You said that you knew what the children were losing. What were they losing?
Really culture. You know, transracial and transnational adoption, there's loss and gain in adoption. Not everybody's aware of that, you know, and a lot of times people don't realize that or acknowledge that loss, and they don't allow a child to grieve. So you've lost your family, but you've also lost, you know, for us, when we're coming from another country, your whole culture, your whole identity in that sense. And it's difficult to reclaim that as you're older because you haven't grown up in it, but you're born of it. So where do you fit? And you've grown up in, you know, for myself and others, this white world, but you don't have white privilege because you're not white. So it's a really interesting place that you find yourselves, and you're really sort of on two sides of the fence, or your foot is in each world if you'd like. And that can be a very, very difficult journey for many adoptees.
What's the alternative? Because in the documentary you do mention that there's a lack of Black parents who are adopting. So what's the alternative? Like,
that's a good question. I think since we did the documentary, you know, it's been 10 years, there's definitely been a shift, and more agencies are looking for families of color to represent the children that are in care here in Canada and abroad internationally. But there needs to be changes to the system, and it's hard to do that, obviously. You know, the systems have been around for a long time, but I think it's sort of a twofold thing. There needs to be more education about adoption and what it entails, educating families on what is this, what does this mean for us, the process of adoption. That some people find it very difficult to get into the process of it, and you know, there have been issues within some of the assessments and things of that nature. So some of that, I guess, demystifying the process is definitely important to encourage more families to adopt. And also, I think for me, seeing all those families that came forward, what I realized was there isn't a need for as much adoption as that happens, if that makes sense. You know, adoption, especially from what I found in Haiti, what we found when we were there was a lot of these children aren't orphans. Their parents aren't deceased, you know. Their parents just financially, there were a lot of economic orphans, and that to me is just heartbreaking. How can you say to somebody, you can't care for your child because you don't have the financial means to? You know, systems need to be put in place to support those families to get on their feet so that they can maintain a family. That's, you know, that's what's very important to me as well, to ensure that happens more often.
Well, we talk about representation mattering, and there's a show called This Is Us, and you wrote an op-ed for the Huffington Post about this show. I want to show you a clip from it, and then we'll talk about it. But in this clip, Jack, the father, is talking to Randall, his adopted son, about embracing his differences.
Can I be honest with you, man to man? You know, your mom and me, we always try to treat you kids the same. Always have. Hasn't always worked because, well, you're not all the same. You're adopted, and we don't talk about that enough. Because to me, you are every part my son. Maybe I don't want you to feel like you stand out. But I need you to know something. I want you to stand out. I want all of you to be as different as you can possibly be, in all the best ways.
Every time I watch anything from that show, I'm like, tissue, or somebody cutting the onions, right? It's such an emotional show. But for both of you, how well does a show like This Is Us do in telling the stories of transracial adoptees?
I mean, I'll just say, you're going to expand on this, but I'll just say, I think it's 100% on point in how it delivers these stories and how it tells Randall's story. I mean, first of all, Randall is not sort of marginalized to the side. His story is very much central to the bigger story of this family, you know, and I feel like it covers Randall's story from a lifelong perspective. It doesn't trivialize it. It doesn't talk about adoption as a side topic. It's a very much big part of Randall's life. And I feel like meeting Judith and knowing Judith, that is true. That rings true, you know?
Because you said that Randall, you identify with him.
Oh,
how so?
Definitely. It's first of all, it's amazing to see sort of my family essentially being represented on a mainstream television show. And I think that was the first thing that obviously hooked me. When I heard about this show, I thought, oh my goodness, that's my family, you know, minus a few children. But it was just amazing to see that, and so many of the things that he talks about, so many of the themes that they cover, searching, reunion, just how he was feeling growing up, and you saw in that clip there, that connectivity, not always talking about adoption, identifying difference, and how do you do that with your child while still embracing them? How do you let people know that this is my child? How do you claim your child but not suffocate? And it just, every episode, there's themes that come up that I just am like, yes, 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 yes. You know, it's like ticking a box of my life. So it was very emotional watching the show, of course, and things that I just feel like they're actually showing what it is like. It's very, very realistic. And I think it's so good that they're showing that it does indeed impact your life. Like, adoption is lifelong, and often people will think, oh, I've got my baby or I've got my toddler, and then that's great, they're now part of my family. We don't have to talk about adoption, we don't have to deal with it. And it's so the opposite. You have to always, it is a lifelong journey that we go through. And it's really, really incredible. And I really do applaud the writers for getting it so spot on. Like everything, it's perfect, but it's so close to really reflecting the adoptee experience, especially the transracial adoptee experience.
And also growing up, did you always want to find your family?
Always, yeah. I think for me, because I had such little information, like being a foundling, I literally had nothing to go on except for the city I was found in and the hospital I was taken to and the year and month I was born. I didn't have a date of birth. I didn't have a birth name. Who was I, So for me, it was always very important to find who are these people, what makes me up, and where are they? What is the story? What actually happened? So it was always important for me.
And what did your family, I hate to say adopted family, because that is your family,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
What did your family think about that?
About my journey going back, well, when I was growing up, it was always, we'll support you, we'll, in any way we can. Because of the lack of information, I think nobody was prepared for me to say, I'm going back to Haiti, I'm going to search. And they were all taken aback. They really were initially. They were sort of concerned for my well-being and safety. And they were concerned about my, I think, emotional well-being as well. Will she be disappointed if she doesn't find, whether there's likelihood that she'll find. So it was a lot of sort of that, I think, initial shock. So I felt at first there was some resistance. And after some deep conversations and me explaining really the reasons why I needed to do this for myself, I needed to search do it on my own. That was very important to me as well. I didn't want to go down with family. I wanted this to be my search, my journey on my own, and how important it was to me. And also the fact, reassuring that I'm not going anywhere. Regardless of what I find, you are my family. You'll always be my family. And I think for a lot of adoptive parents, that is a part of that is the biggest fear, that if, as an adoptee, if we find our birth family, that's it, we'll shun our adoptive family. But it just simply isn't the case most of the time.
And we shouldn't trivialize what you experienced when you were in Haiti as a child. You were found on the side of the road, covered in bugs. You were only a few days old. Yeah. And so, Sonia, seeing your friend and also the subject of your film, going back, how did you offer support?
Really, really good question. I mean, I often talk about the fact that as a filmmaker, you want to obviously show as much of the journey as possible, but there was times where I had to take off my filmmaker hat and put on my friend hat and not film certain things because I had to make sure she was okay. So there's a scene in the film where you have an emotional breakdown, and that manifests in you having a seizure, and I didn't film it because I wanted to make sure my friend was okay. And so it was that sort of balancing act of making sure that I could be an ear for her and trust, and her letting me know what she was comfortable with in terms of showing to the world, Most often, I think we got that balance right. I don't ever feel like I ever compromised the integrity of our relationship and what Judith wanted to reveal. But at times, it was difficult because I was battling or constantly thinking about friendship. I was constantly thinking about our safety, constantly thinking about, other stories that were sort of being revealed whilst we were in Haiti as well, so.
You were in Haiti in 2007.
That's right.
And 3 years later, the earthquake hit. And over 200,000 people were killed and over 1 million people displaced. Basically, everyone on the island was impacted by the earthquake in some way. What was it like for you both to see the aftermath, having spent almost a month in Haiti?
I remember where I was. It was because it was late at night, and we were both in London at the time, and I literally texted you "Are you awake?" It was devastating. I mean, it was absolutely devastating because when we were there, we could see the infrastructure of how these homes were built, and we knew that I knew right away that there must have been so many ruins because literally homes were, similar to what happens in Brazil, homes are built on top of each other, and so I just thought about that. Immediately. And then I thought about the folks that we met down there. And then I thought about, I think the first image that we saw, one of the first images we saw was the palace was in ruins, So it was absolutely devastating. I thought about all these orphans that we knew about. I felt about all of the sort of the carers that were there. It was, it just seemed
Close.
awful. Yeah.
It was horrible. I'd set up with some other Haitian folks in England a charity. So when we heard the news, I remember sitting up in bed. It was late at night. I got a text from one of, a fellow Haitian who said, "Turn on the news. Earthquake just hit Haiti, a massive earthquake." And it started, the blitz started, the horror, family, a lot of our Haitian friends had family and friends that were down in Haiti at the time. So as people, a lot of conversation of, is my family okay? What can we do as a charity? And we just mobilized ourselves as quickly as we could. And it felt good to be involved. And I think that was really important for me. Whereas other people could contact their family and try and get in touch with these people, it brought me back very starkly to the fact that I didn't know where my family was. And I've always imagined, of course, some are in Haiti, some may have immigrated, but I was aware that I have family there and I don't know if they're now dead or alive. I don't know if they're well, if they're okay, have they survived? So that was extremely painful because everybody was searching for their family. Sort of like I'd gone on this search, but then I didn't have a name, and people would ask me in interviews, "Oh, so is your family okay?" And I would have to say, "I don't know." And it was so hard. It really was. So I felt like I was very useful, I felt like I was being useful by being involved with the charity, and we did a lot of, fundraising events and collections of goods and those types of things to support, people in Haiti. But it was horrible.
Well, the U.S. president recently repealed the temporary protection status for Haitians who were living in the state since the earthquake, and the decision would affect 60,000 Haitians. And Canada has arrested more than 3,000 Haitians who were trying to seek asylum in Canada. What do you think of the president's decision?
I think he's doing everything that he's been doing with regards to anti-immigration laws. It just falls in line with his rhetoric and his policies that we've seen. Everything he's campaigned on, he's now following through. So it's not surprising, but it is disappointing.
How do you think Canada should respond?
I hope Canada will be welcoming. We're known as a very welcoming country, and I hope that will continue. I know there's actually a camp set up right now in Montreal, because that's where a lot of people are coming into, which is horrible to see a camp, a refugee camp in Canada, essentially. And I hope that we do more. I hope that we will accept. I think, we've got a lot of space in Canada. We've got the means to do this, because going back, what are people going back to? For a lot of people, they really lost everything.
To end on a positive note moving forward, you recently did a DNA test and you found that you have
family. It's so surreal. I'm still sort of in shock and in awe, to be honest. So
and they're in the States, right?
Yes, I have some family here in Canada, in Montreal, and then I have some in the States as well, and some actually in Haiti as well. So it's my paternal family that I've connected with and that I found. And I am actually due in a week's time, to go and meet with some of my siblings. So
you have siblings?
I have siblings. I have 7 siblings, cousins. I have nieces and nephews. It's absolutely surreal. Sadly, my birth father is deceased. He passed away many years ago, so I'm not connecting with him. But the fact that I can connect with these siblings, it's surreal. It's just out of this world.
She found this out 10 years, almost to the day of when we went down to Haiti. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
We have less than a minute, but if somebody is considering transracial adoption, some strategies on how to navigate it and make it easier for the whole family.
Get in contact with me. I'd be happy to walk people through that. I think it's important to listen to our voices as adoptees. I think adoptees' voices matter. We've lived it. We've been through it. I'm not saying I have all of the answers, but I definitely can help hopefully guide you and your children through the process, because you have to be well equipped to do this. It's not for everybody. Transracial adoption truly does take, people who are very well equipped and not just well-meaning and give enough love. Love is not enough when it's adoption, or when especially transracial adoption. You have to give more, and you have to be aware that more is needed and more is required of you, because your child needs that, and they deserve that, and they need the opportunity to develop themselves, within their identity. So I'm very happy, you know, for people to contact me. It's the work that I'm doing now, and I truly want to help both the parents, adoptive parents, and also fellow adoptees as well.
We're very excited for you, and have a great reunion. Well,
Thank
I
you.
guess, I don't know, what do you say when you meet? I think, is it a reunion? Yeah,
really,
a great
yeah.
reunion. And Sonia, thank you so much for bringing this topic top of mind for us. We really appreciate you both being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Nam.
you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.